Paul Tagliabue deserves to be distinguished in what he has done because he was an NFL commissioner.
We congratulate you and your extraordinary group of players.
What is his greatest asset? You couldn't sum it up in one word. What about diversity? What about the expansion? What about 9/11?
It's a time to tend to families and neighbors and all those wounded by these horrific acts. That became obviously the key.
Katrina.
And a lot of the credit for being so resilient.
I mean, it's just like you can just go on and on and on.
If anyone thinks it's easy to run the NFL, they're crazy.
In the biggest deal in Cowboys history, Dallas sent All-Pro running back Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings for 5 players and 7 draft picks.
He was really the only significant asset that Cowboys team had. And he was a really versatile guy. He could catch the football, he could run with power, he could run with speed.
We go, there's no way they're going to trade Herschel Walker. He's our whole offense. We can't move the ball with him.
One agent said it's the biggest trade he has ever seen in the NFL. As one owner said, it's a great train robbery. But whatever it is, we're happy with it.
I mean, on its surface, it looked like the Cowboys were trading the only good player that they had. Nobody understood the terms and conditions of the trade and how unique it all was put together. How Jimmy Johnson had structured this trade, to him the real currency in the trade were all the draft picks.
Dallas selects Emmitt Smith, running back.
And obviously the Minnesota Vikings were doing it because they thought they were one player away from going to a Super Bowl.
If you're still wondering who got the better end of the Herschel Walker trade, the early advantage is leaning heavily towards the Vikings.
The Cowboys found a way to really get both, which was a remarkable thing.
From the absolute worst to the absolute best in 4 years.
The Cowboys are back on top of the mountain now.
2 in a row. How sweet it is.
What a ride it's been. And Dallas, your Cowboys are the champions.
And it just shows you how shrewd Jimmy and Jerry were even this early. I mean, they were only in the league for a couple of months at the time.
How about them Cowboys?
Hi, Gil Brandt. How are you? Good to see
the best recruiter of talent ever in any sport. It didn't matter what you played. Baseball, basketball, Gil could look at you and tell if there's a position on the football field that not only could you play, but play it well.
He really introduced the idea of the computer as a component to your football franchise, and that you could evaluate talent or evaluate the draft.
Everything today is so much more advanced because of computers, because of greater film use.
Gil Brandt scouted all of these players all over the country.
Vince, you got them really going here today.
And he had a system.
In the 100 books that we have right here are all seniors that will be eligible for the draft this year.
So Gil was responsible basically for the success of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, there's nothing like them. They're America's sweethearts. And when Tex Schramm first started the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders, people weren't sure. This was the 1970s. You know, was this going to be an entertainment value? Was this just going to be fluff on the sidelines?
You are looking live at the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders.
Give us the pictures of those cheerleaders, which doesn't hurt America.
Typical Dallas lovely. You're here.
The Cowboys Cheerleaders are popular to this day because they really were in the forefront. You know, having a little bit more revealing outfits and with the dancing, I think they really just paved the way. I have to say, I'm sure a lot of the girls were kind of looking at how they dance or how they wear their makeup.
If you were to show someone a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader uniform, they would know. So iconic. Even people who are not fans of the game at all would know the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader uniform, which really shows that they are a brand on their own besides the Dallas Cowboy star.
The world-famous Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, still the best.
Here's Don Hutson, once the pride of Alabama, one of the fastest men in pro football.
He was the first Jerry Rice. He was the most magnificent, spectacular, unorthodox and striking figure, perhaps, in the National Football League in terms of his play. He caught the ball, he ran with it, he did things that no other receiver had really ever done.
Hold it. Look out, fellas. Look at that cookie stride.
And the numbers that he put up at a time when the NFL was not a passing league existed for decades after he stopped playing. That's how good he was. He was as crafty and as skilled at that time when there was no one to emulate.
And Hutson streaks down the field to receive it. Here it comes. Look out, fellas.
Don Hutson basically invented what we see in wide receivers and flankers today in pro football.
In the beginning, there were no black faces in pro football. The first belonged to Fitz Pollard, who broke the NFL's color barrier 28 years before Jackie Robinson signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Mr. Pollard was hard to knock down. He was a running back. And then he became the coach. So we're talking about the turn of the century. So for this man to prevail in that manner, a black man in those days, in a sport that had very few black players, was pretty amazing.
And all of that is his legacy. Therefore, a lot of the individuals and character of the league sometimes rest on a few shoulders. And his name, I think, will continue to be viewed as one of those shoulders.
When he came up in 1961 with the Los Angeles Rams, we run 40-yard dashes. He was the fastest man on the team. He weighed 270.
I would safely say at this point in time, I was the fastest in the history of the game.
Number 75, Deacon Jones, is a Rams All-Pro. His stock and trade is quickness, and his goal is the quarterback's head.
Yeah, it wasn't a stat until he brought it in. And it's like, well, yeah, that should be something that if you can get and sack the quarterback.
Every time the Deacon pillaged the pass pocket, he made the term's meaning painfully clear.
My lateral movements along with my initial speed was just fantastic. You got this 260 pounds up to 4.5, and you got an angle on him. No remorse in my heart.
Just a tremendous, fierce pass rusher who made a tremendous impact on the game.
Football has many superstars, but only one Superman, Deacon Jones.
Unlike baseball, players in the NFL got drafted and they were tethered to that team with virtually no negotiating ability. Free agency became, in the NFL, a system that gave B-plus players A-plus contracts. The great players in the NFL never became free agents.
Reggie White was the premier defensive player in the league.
The way he dominated his position, coach would take out of the playbook certain plays to his side just out of almost respect for Reggie.
Reggie White came in unmolested. Safety. Yep, they give it a safety. The dominant defensive player in this league.
The money going around to get his services was astronomical.
I called my wife this morning. She said, how'd it go? I said, hey, I was the lead story in the news last night.
He had made a stop in Detroit, but he had promised the Packers that he would visit. But the Detroit offer was so good, his agent had said, just accept this offer. This is the place to be. And he said, I promised Green Bay that I would go visit.
I phoned him up, and I left a message on his answering machine, Reggie, this is God. I want you to play in Green Bay. And then I hung up the phone.
When Reggie moved from Philadelphia to Green Bay, he, along with Brett Favre, is the reason why they went from just an average team to Super Bowl champions.
The Vince Lombardi Trophy is coming home.
It changed it dramatically. Fans, owners wanted you to build a team a certain way and go out and get the shiniest, brightest weapon, tool, player that you could get. It's a great thing for players, and it's great for the game. But with every blessing comes a curse, too, so you have to pay attention to the good and the bad.
How much them boots cost? Them boots cost them. No, you know who that is? $3,000, huh? You know who that is? Yeah. He got his own institute. Hey, Doc, nice boots.
Dr. Andrews has been amazing to a lot of us. You know, he's been a guy that has gotten us back on the field. I mean, you can't count the number of guys who he's helped.
Before Dr. Andrews had his innovative approaches to fixing knees, when players who were destined for greatness, like Joe Namath, had injuries, they were hobbled for the rest of their career.
The knee has always been king. I mean, back when I first started in the early 70s, we didn't have a way to really fix the ligament. We did some procedures on the side of the knee that would get them back to football and to high levels, but it wasn't near as good as the procedures we do today. And I guess the thing that I've worked on that's been the most revolutionary thing in sports was the development of the arthroscope and to be able to do minimally invasive techniques.
When James Andrews began reconstructing body parts using innovative techniques and shed a light on a possible opportunity for a lot of other surgeons to go where no man had gone before, it changed the game of football, but it also changed the field of medicine.
Dr. James Andrews is my surgeon. He's also the surgeon of many, many other NFL players. He reconstructed my ACL, saved it, and he saved my career. And during the same time, I was in rehab with Grunk and Von Miller and Adrian Peterson.
Touchdown, Vikings! I'd say that ACL's okay.
When I told him I wanted to come back as quick as AP, he's like, well, Daredevil, that ain't gonna happen. He still got me back out there, and he definitely saved my career. He's an amazing doctor, and he's definitely changed the game for so many athletes.
The Astrodome, the home of the Houston Oilers.
This is our artificial grass, or AstroTurf.
I feel that in the near future, all the National Football League and American League stadiums will have the AstroTurf.
It certainly made the game faster. And when the game was faster, your skill position players could take control of the game. And so that's what AstroTurf did for the NFL.
Damn, the paint is hard.
I think all of us wish that it never was invented. I don't know anybody that liked it. I mean, we played on basically padded concrete. I mean, that's what it was. It was incredibly hard. It was just a horrible, horrible surface. I hurt more from standing on the sidelines on that AstroTurf than I did playing the game. Could be really dangerous on the field. I'm sure it took years off guys' careers.
If they really wanted to do throwback, they ought to put grass on this field. Because when those throwback days, I'll guarantee you they didn't play on a carpet.